All right, that's the sign. We're good.
Hey guys, welcome to the Collider Games podcast. We have a very special episode. This is the first episode that we have on video. So if you're checking it out on YouTube, you actually get to see our beautiful, smiling, shining faces. And this is also a preview episode for EVO.
Yes, Evolution World Fighting Game Tournament. Oh.
So the EVO Championship is going on in Las Vegas this weekend.
Starts tomorrow, bright and early. Pools begin at 8 a.m. The grind begins at sunup. It's real.
So, I mean, people are getting familiar with esports and stuff now. First off, let's start by introducing you.
That might be a smart
Matt
decision.
Maguma Lewis, welcome
Yes.
to the podcast studio.
Thank you.
Or
You
the
hit
temporary.
You hit that introduction perfectly, because that's how I like to introduce myself. Matthew Maguma Lewis. Bam. Just get that.
Well, we had a brief moment where someone sent out the email to you, and other people in the office are in the chain.
Yeah.
And I was like, Matthew Lewis is coming into the studio. And I'm like, not the guy from Harry Potter.
Yeah, right. No, I get that a lot. It's actually
So-
my favorite name mistake is like, oh snap, Neville Longbottom's coming, and it's like, nah. I mean, you can call me Neville Longbottom, but that works a lot different.
So Matt Maguma Lewis, we've known each other for a long time, and it started with fighting games. It started with Street Fighter content back in 2000.
Street Fighter High, the musical, still searchable on YouTube.
Yeah. If you ever want to see Matthew Mercer playing Dan Hibiki,
It's pretty good.
and all kinds of familiar faces. They were bright-eyed and early into Hollywood.
Oh, that was a project. It was a good project though. It was a lot of fun.
But
nonetheless,
it taught me, and that was when I started to get an idea of the world of fighting games. Because I had been to the arcade before and I'd seen the machines, and I'd played a little bit of like Mortal Kombat, and I was never the kid who had a console on the block, so I went over to someone else's house and I played a bit of Primal Rage.
Oh, Primal Rage. Ooh, see, now here's the thing though, is that like you walking into the arcade, honestly, that's like the root, because so many people, especially in an earlier generation of fighting games, I feel like I'm on the cusp between earlier generation of fighting game players to like the current modern age where everyone is playing on console. It's that you had to go to arcades, you had to go to locations, you had to go to Chuck E. Cheese or Dave & Buster's, you had to go somewhere where they had the cabinets, because it was the only way to play, to play physically. So like you honestly got the experience in probably the best style before esports was a thing, because you were able to meet random players, you were able to meet the community, and like fighting games, I want to say, had a lot of adversity because you're playing in the arcade, because you don't know who you're up against, you don't know what the personality types are all the time,
right? And
sometimes you're just bashing your head against a wall trying to play other people. But I think it made so many people stronger in so many capacities that it was really important to have the arcade setting out there for people to grow.
And it was also, at that time, it was an investment to get good.
Oh,
you
got to put money to learn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to put up.
There's no How to Play Street Fighter for Dummies book. There's How to Play Street Fighter for Dummies, the quarter. You put it in, and then that guy is going to learn you. He's going to say, Chapter 1, give me your money.
And there's no like pause to look at your combos or anything like that.
I will tell you right now what I used to do back when I was still going to COC. Rest in peace, COC Arcade. It's gone.
Oh, it's gone?
It is a tragic story, and I'll get to it. I'll get to it in a minute because it's kind of funny. But like there'd be times I'd play Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Like that's my game. That is hands down of my top 3 next to Skullgirls. It's Marvel 2. I love this game to death. It's really what pushed me to become a competent fighting game player and really learn fighting games.
Right.
Is I hit that point of playing Marvel 2, and I kind of sat there. And whenever I'd play matches with people, if I was trying a new team or I was just like unsure, in between victories or losses, I'd take out my phone and I'd go on sureyoucan.com and I'd look at the wikis, and it's like, oh, okay, that's the bread and that's Jill's bread and butter. Okay, that's the special. Okay, that's the color palette I want to pick. Okay, and I'd throw my phone in my pocket as soon as they finish picking their characters. I'm like, all right, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, when you're playing in the arcade, especially when you're playing your first couple times or something like that, you don't realize the depth and the ability that is put into fighting games in general. And a lot of times, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, like some of the stuff that's in there isn't even intentionally meant to be competitive. Like,
it's true.
Things like, like frame counting and stuff like that.
There's one of the funnier jokes that I think has evolved in just general gaming, but it's really prevalent in fighting games. Is that's not a bug, that's a feature.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm sure you've heard that at some point, but it happens a lot where like wave dashing was a bug, and now it's a feature for Melee. You can correct me if I'm wrong because I don't. For Smash lore.
This is not a Smash, research documentary, but
true. But no, it's a thing, or it's just like these are abusable things. Like in Marvel 2, my scrub busting team is Juggernaut, Cammy, and Cyclops, and there's a very prominent Juggernaut glitch. He's got a move called Power Up, where he starts flashing and glowing colors, and basically the next attack he does double damage. However, if Juggernaut's your point character, while you use this move, before you press any attack buttons, if you just tag him out, the Power Up becomes permanent and it doesn't go away, and then it applies to all of his moves until you use the power up again. So you power him up, tag him out, and now he's got this powerful like 25% damaging assist move, and he's just massive. He just becomes 10 times more dangerous because everything he does now does double damage, and he gets to heal over time because he's an assist. So it's like it's not a bug; it's a feature. It should be in the manual, like tag him out because then he's broken.
There's so much. That is not in the manual. There's so much that's not written on the side of the console.
You gotta learn it. You gotta take it to the lab, and you gotta do your research. And that's where fighting game pros. That's kind of like the point that divides a lot of players between like someone who's casual versus someone who's competent to someone who's competitive. Is like how much work are you putting into the game and how much are you getting out of it?
Yeah, do you know everything the developers told you about the game, or do you know everything about the game?
Exactly. And sometimes you'll never learn. Like I was just having this discussion the other day with some other people, and when it comes to getting the max amount of content, back when Marvel 3 was relevant, there was a huge debacle when Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which is like the update expansion, new characters, new stages, a couple new buffs and debuffs and patches. And in the patch notes, Jill Valentine from Resident Evil 5, she had a bunch of nerfs, and everyone's kind of like, why did you nerf Jill? She was garbage. And a bunch of the devs came out and said, oh, no, she wasn't garbage. None of you were using her correctly. None of you ever will use her correctly. So we just took them out anyways because they are broken.
Right.
And it's like, wow, everybody slept on a character that was godlike, but no one could really find her godlike skill sets.
And that's crazy that there's this whole sect of gaming that is about finding those glitches and finding those exploits. Data mine. There's
some really cool people out there too. If you got Twitter, I'm trying to remember exactly his Twitter handle. I think he goes by Dino, just DNO. Or maybe Dino. I'm trying to remember exactly. It's been a while. But what he would do is he'd just play fighting games, all types of fighting games, and he'd find glitches and bugs and exploits, and he would just showcase them. So you could go on his Twitter, and it's just hundreds of fighting games and just dumb glitches like, oh yeah, if you use this move while countering, while holding this button at this time, when this person uses that move, both of the characters disappear and fall into the stage, and everything freaks out, but you can still keep playing. Or like, if you press this button, you throw this fireball, but then the fireball gets stuck to your hand and does damage every time you punch. And it like, he just finds all this stuff, and it's crazy.
That's crazy. And, it only takes, two or three, knowing two or three of those special moves to be able to be an above-average player when it comes to something like an arcade or a friend's, PS4 or something like that.
Dude, when you're playing your friends at home and you just learn, you learn the one combo.
Right.
You learn it, and then you just take it everywhere. And that's your bread and butter. And it's like, if your friends don't know how to play, you got to learn one. If you learn one combo and learn some fundamentals, you will be better than all of your friends immediately.
Yeah. I mean, and that's crazy that there's such a big, jump through the gaming world. And that's kind of how EVO began is, people were getting really competitive about, fighting games and stuff like that. So EVO started as a competition to find the best fighting game player. And it started with Street Fighter, correct?
I'm pretty sure. Unfortunately, I'm not an EVO historian. But it started with Street Fighter. There might have been a couple other games as well.
But yeah, no, it's expanded now.
Fighters. And but now it's expanded vastly. So there's just tons and tons of fighting games, and now people even go to EVO to showcase their new projects. Like Fighting EX Layer was debuted at EVO last year. Punch Planet, all sorts of games that fall under the fighting game genre. So it's really cool that EVO started just as a tournament where people were like, this isn't about the money, it's about the pride, it's about proving yourself. This is the proving ground. And like even today with esports and the way that everything has changed, I look at EVO and I look at the way a lot of people treat EVO. It may not be the final destination for everybody, but everyone can at least say that EVO is a place where you don't hold back, you don't sleep on anyone, you really take that opportunity to say that this is one of the grandest stages to play fighting games on, and it is time to nut up or shut up. Like that's the game.
You bring up a cool point about esports. Like one of the things, esports is growing, bigger and bigger every day. But it is a team sport. Everything that is showcased, League of Legends, Overwatch, Heroes of the Storm, that kind of thing. Everything is team sports, unless there's a
very
couple.
rare. Fighting games kind of can be team sporty. But on certain, you got to do a lot of work.
But also at the same time, there are like one or two esports that I think are 1v1. It's escaping me at the moment.
Yeah.
But my point is that EVO was a showcase of a single fighter.
Yeah.
You were always
always a 1v1 situation. Yeah.
And now that's expanded to, it's not just, current Street Fighter, but it's also, Street Fighter 2 is featured as well. It's expanded out to like BlazBlue and Fighter Z,
Dragon Ball Fighters, BlazBlue, King of Fighters, Smash Brawl, Melee, Smash Ultimate. There's always like 8 main games,
right?
And then maybe some side tournaments, and then people who are hiding in their hotel rooms being like, "My game matters,
right?
My game is important. Now set up that laptop on top of this toilet seat and let's play."
Yeah. And
real
also,
facts.
Like,
that's real.
I totally believe it. There'd be underground tournaments of like,
Melty blood.
The Super Smash thing of always like no items, final destination.
Oh, God.
But
I bet that's tournament standard.
Yeah, exactly. That's tournament standard. So I bet you there's a dozen games going around like no, we're gonna be doing Hyrule and all items on, and that's the only way to play.
Hyrule Temple. Oh, that's the stage where men and women are born. Like
right.
That separates the kids from the adults.
That stage is a perfect example of things the way you can exploit fighting games. On the surface, it is very approachable because it's not a moving stage or anything like that. But there are so many little like hidden exploits throughout that stage, and things you don't realize about it until you've learned to play a little more.
So I wanted to jump back on this topic of esports and the way that fighting games are viewed as an esport, because I wanted to say something really, really prolific about it. So like, as you said, most esports that exist, a lot of the way that esports was defined originally is like, team sports. You got Dota, you got Quake, you got Overwatch, you got League, etc. And those are all team focused, right? Fighting games introduce a really different element of esports in 2 facets, I think. One is, again, it's the one-on-one aspect, right? Like there are tons of people who are part of teams. So, there are players on Echo Fox, there are players on Solo Mid, there are players on Beast and Panda Gaming or Panda Global. There's so many different teams out there who represent solo players. But the other thing that's really important about fighting games is that fighting games are such a unique community, because when you look at fighting game tournaments, for the most part, you do not have to be a sponsored player to be a participant. You do not have to belong to a team. You do not have to belong to a company. You don't have to have reps or anything to walk in the room and participate. EVO is a tournament where all you got to do is sign up, pay that fee, and you get to be thrown in. So you can be a dude off the street who throws up the entire system, a nobody who nobody hears about, and you can climb right to the top of the ladder, and you don't have to have invitationals. You don't have to be a part of a team. You don't have to hit a certain mark to participate. All you have to do is be better than the other guy.
Like the story of every anime, you can be the underdog.
It is true though, and like there are players out there who are on teams, but it's still this idea of like a great story, in my opinion, comes from Capcom Cup last year. And like that is a qualifying tournament, so you do have to like place and participate in other tournaments to earn your spot in Capcom Pro Tour. But the champion of Capcom Cup last year was Mena RD, a dude from the Dominican Republic, and like I had never heard of him prior to Capcom Cup. And like I know he's got a following, I know he's legit, he's a great player, he's amazing. But I mean, I don't know how many people prior to that who were kind of like avidly paying attention, not like super
Right.
diehard, but I was like, who is Mena RD? Who's this guy who mains Birdie in Street Fighter V? I've never seen this dude before. And he's blowing up everybody. He's so different and he's unique and he's young. And it's that alone is such an interesting and amazing dynamic shakeup where you have this person from a small community who hits the grand stage and he makes such a wave, he makes such a dynamic impact on the community. And it's like, this is the definition of World Warriors. This is the definition of a new generation.
Right.
Where, again, anybody can come in off the street. Anybody can show up from whatever community or household that they grew up in and participate. You don't have to necessarily qualify to participate at an event. You just have to show up to events and go.
So tell me about how the pool system works at EVO. So pools start tomorrow. We're recording this on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Episode comes out on a Friday. So right now, as you guys are listening to it,
I get to make my speculations and immediately be wrong right out the gate. So basically the way pools work, right, is that you get divided into pools and you go through a series of like win-loss rate brackets. So you're going to be playing up against certain people and
It's not full knockout.
It's not full knockout. You're basically kind of going through like a placement series.
Mm-hmm.
So you're competing against a series of people. You gotta like, how many wins do you get? How many losses do you get? And based off of these, you kind of get weeded out of pools. You either drown in them, you drown in pools, or you survive. EVO last year, they were giving out the little like wristbands, little plastic wristbands, and it says "Let me not drown in pools." ... Like when you go to pick up your badge. So like, pools are a very intimidating thing because that is the point in the tournament where you weed out the massive amount of players, and you try to survive pools so that you can get into like the standard bracket.
Yeah, and so at the beginning of the event, there's hundreds of players jumping into pools for every game. There's like a dozen big games being played. And you could go into the pool for any one of them, or like
you have to sign up for them.
But
you can like. I have a buddy of mine who's in like 4 different games. I think he's doing Tekken, Street Fighter, BlazBlue, and Guilty Gear.
Okay, jeez.
Yeah, and it's just like that's intense, especially when you're trying to play multiple games. Or no, he's not doing BlazBlue. He's doing fighters. But I digress.
But they're different disciplines.
They're different exactly, and it's like for me, like when I play multiple fighting games, sometimes I have the issue where like either the game is just similar enough or it's too similar where I'm like, oh God, why am I pressing this button? I'm thinking like I'm playing Level 3. I'm playing Skullgirls or I'm playing Fighters. Why am I can't push block in this game. Stop it. There's no focus attack, Matt.
Yeah.
And it's like, it happens.
I have that problem switching from Xbox to PS4. I can't imagine what that's like.
Fight stick. That solves the problem. You play a fight stick because the fight stick is just uniform button layouts, and you don't have to worry about.
I'm really excited to play the new Spider-Man game on a fight stick. Like that's the new plan.
I've done stuff like that. I've played Mortal Kombat Deception using a DDR pad. So like, and another thing that's crazy, when you want to talk about fighting games is like, people play in different ways. Some people play on pads. Some people play on fighting sticks. I don't know if you've seen the footage, but there's a Japanese player who uses a USB Casio keyboard.
A keyboard? Yeah.
He plays fighters on a keyboard, and he's dynamite. He's amazing.
Well, So I heard something interesting about one of his losses where because it's synced via Bluetooth, and the Bluetooth timed out in the middle of a match or something like that.
That's terrible.
And it's just like, I mean, you're
wired.
Not using
this.
Be
wired, always wired. Yeah. Don't rely on Bluetooth. Never.
I think it was something about the drivers or something like that. But it's just like, they are providing standard equipment for you to play on. If you're not playing on that, you're playing on your own, but you're playing at your own risk.
It's true. No, it's very important. I mean, and this is me throwing a little bit of shade, but no, it's fair. There are free source to use materials and data and programs and drivers that exist for fighting games that any fighting game company could implement that solve all these controller problems. They just don't choose to use them because, it's not like you can turn on Skullgirls and plug in any type of controller at any time and the game automatically recognizes it, and then that program was free to use for anybody. So that's my 5 seconds of shade. Get the Skullgirls, legacy driver and implement your game properly, and then anybody can use any controller.
So,
but I digress.
I mean, I wonder what it's like as far as the rules and regulations when it comes to stuff like that.
Like for controllers?
Yeah. But as far as like drivers and...
I mean, really right now, I don't think there's a lot in terms of like... Because there are certain tournaments that ban certain types of controllers. Like, for example, hitboxes. I know at one point, I don't know if this rule has changed at any time recently or based on the game you're in, but in Marvel 3, hitboxes, I believe, were banned because you could hold left and right at the same time, and this allowed you to block mix-ups without having to try. So it was an automatic free, I block in any direction, there's nothing you can do about it. And it takes away the element of a mix-up where you have to guess what direction. Well, no, I can just block, and I'm always blocking no matter what you do.
See, so if they're playing Super Smash...
Yeah.
Any version of Super Smash.
Oh, boy.
And using a GameCube controller.
Yeah.
Can they use the C-Stick?
Can you use the... Yeah, dude,
you can use the C-Stick. All right. It's part of the game. There. I'm done with this argument. I don't need to...
If someone's telling you you're not allowed to use the C-Stick, that's them being babies and trying to be like, oh, well, I put in the Smash. And I'm like, the C-Stick has its draws. It has its positives and its negatives. If you want to get really technical, you can have this argument. There was a tournament that happened a couple years ago where a guy quit the tournament because he had the GameCube controllers originally had like this weird a defect in them. It was like a 1 in 4 for like standard factory GameCube controllers, where when you flick the joystick, normally what it would do is it would. I'm gonna have it's one way or the other, which is when you flick it and let go, like you just tap it, it flicks to neutral. But then the issue was it would swing the opposite direction. So it's one way or the other.
Like there'd be a rubber banding kind of effect.
It would have a rubber banding effect. And it basically would allow you to do inputs that were inhuman. But it was part of the controller, so it was allowed. And the guy left the tournament because the controller stopped doing the thing that he needed. And he's like, well, I'm out.
Yeah, because he's relying on that.
And he's relying on this. And it also brings up this topic, which has been debated a billion times to Sunday. So, I don't need to have that debate with anybody. It's fine if you have your opinion on it. But it brought up the debate of, is it okay to use controllers that have these types of defects or have these types of abuses that give you an ability that is above human capacity? But, that's all technicals, and that's up to tournaments, and who cares? Let's just play fighting games and have fun.
I mean, so there's something to be said for the fact that, if you give everyone the exact same equipment, you're putting them on even footing.
It's true.
But there's also something so... I mean, I can't help but say romantic about the idea of being able to come in with your own custom rig and, being able to see someone and go, oh, he's got that. Whoa, I've never seen someone use that kind of thing.
No, it's amazing. There have been
I'm literally describing an anime here.
It's true. There have been people who played Street Fighter 4 on SNES controllers. You can do you. And I've hosted panels at anime conventions and other things just to kind of give intro to fighting games, because I feel that a lot of people get intimidated because they just don't carry the fundamentals. Right. So it's let's teach fundamentals to people so that way they can walk into fighting games and at least feel comfortable to learn. And one of the biggest questions I'll always see is, do I need a fight stick to play fighting games? And the answer is no, you don't. What you need is a tool that you're comfortable with.
Right.
I have played fighting games on a pad. I've played them on fight stick. I've played fighting games on a keyboard. I grew up on fighting games using a keyboard. That's how I learned them initially.
Oh, really?
Yes. I used emulators. No shame. I was in high school. I didn't know better. I support the official releases of video games now. You bet. I pay money for fighting games. But my first introduction to a lot of fighters that I took seriously at first came through emulation, and I would play on a laptop. And I would use the arrow keys as my directionals, and I'd use ASD ZXC as my light, medium, heavies. And I learned to play fighting games reverse-handed like that. And then eventually I started playing in cabinets, and all of the fundamentals I learned, I just had to kind of realign them to the right hands. Yeah. But I learned all my fundamentals, and I learned how to play the game on a different type of tool. So it's not about what tool you got, it's just about how you use it.
And it's almost like playing an instrument in that sense. You can be a good musician and just not know the instrument that you're handed.
Exactly.
So to have people being able to do different things, and then within each game, having the different mechanics of how each character plays, and you mentioned a while back, someone coming in and wiping a tournament, as almost being an unknown because they were playing something different and showing up with a different style.
Yeah,
is that something that throws tournaments a lot? When people come in with a different technique?
Yeah, actually it does. like in the case of Capcom Cup with Mena RD versus Tokido, there was a really dumb controversy, and I call it dumb because people on the internet were trying to illegitimize something that was very legitimate, and we all watched it happen. And a lot of people were just saying that like the way in which Mena played Birdie and the way he plays Street Fighter, people were like, "Oh, well, that's not like the way to play." And it's like, shut up. There's no one way to play a fighting game. Like even for me, I get that comment a lot sometimes online when I play fighters, where it's like, I like my bread and butter. I don't try to do crazy long infinite combos where I'm maximizing every hit. I really enjoy the mind game. I really enjoy putting an opponent back into a neutral position and making them guess how they have to come back into me, even though I was just on the offensive. So like I'm doing my big damage, and then I throw them full screen, and it's like, all right, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I've already gotten in on you once like this, and now you're back where you were with a lot of health left. So what you gonna do now?
Because it's not about winning all the time. It's about playing a game.
It is. And
because ultimately it comes down to the fact that, this is a game. You play it to have fun. Sure, you can get competitive about it. Sure, you can get, you can get driven about it, but it's still a game.
Yeah.
You still need to enjoy it.
And everyone's objectives on how to win sometimes are really important. Like some people play in a way where it's like, the way I'm going to win is by conditioning you. I'm going to do stuff to make you act a certain way. Like I'm going to press these buttons to make you think that this is how I operate. And as soon as I have you trained to think that I'm going to keep jumping, I'm going to change my game. Or, you do something that looks unsafe, like in a versus style fighting game, right, where you have assists. My big gimmick is I love using my assists that travel far distances because people like to punish them. People like to hit the assists for the free damage. But as soon as I see someone commit to that, I'm like, full screen specials. Like, it's worth the 2 hits to take out all of this health on you or just get a big opening. So, like, everybody comes into fighting games with different types of strategies, different types of play styles. No 2 players play the same character the same way. So you can never really say to any person, oh, well, you don't play that character correctly. And it's like, are they getting results? Then they're playing that character correctly. Right. You don't get to illegitimize the way a person plays if they've got the W's. Like, end of story.
And when you factor in things like, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, where you have, teams and, you have assists and multiple things that you can bring in, people aren't going to play the same character the same way, but people also are not going to have the same combination of characters.
Very true. Like right now, when we want to talk about versus games, we've got Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which a lot of people are really hoping get some love. Let's get Infinite back up on a pedestal again.
Right.
And then another versus game that's currently relevant is BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, which is going to be at EVO for the first time this year. And Cross Tag Battle is a very interesting versus game because it introduced a new assist system where your partner character, what you can tag in and out with, you can assist, but they have 3 different assists that they can use at any time during the fight based on your inputs while you press that character. So if I want, like, I can pick one character and it's like, all right, if I just press the button, they'll come out and do like a dash attack. But if I hold up and press the button, they'll do an anti-air. And if I hold down and press the button, they'll do a counter move. So in the traditional way that a lot of older versus games were, where you had to pick your assist before, now it's just pick your 2 characters, and in the middle of the fight, you pick the assist that benefits you at that moment.
That's and that there's so much strategy that you can put into this.
Because now you have the infinite possibilities, and the same with Marvel Infinite. Marvel Infinite changed the way that you use assists in the sense that instead of having an assist button, you just had a tag button, and you could tag on anything. You could be in the middle of a combo and just press the tag button, and the other partner comes in and can just do what they want, and you can create a fresh new combo based on the scenario that you walk into by pressing that button. So, again, like that idea that no 2 players play a character the same way, when you introduce these other elements like that, everybody has a unique play style. You can have 2 teams who run the exact same team with the exact same, even with the same assist types, but you can still play them very differently. And like that, I think, makes fighting games so fun because you really, at the end of the day, like you can be optimal, but everyone has their own version of that.
So with esports, we talk a lot about new patches being introduced, things getting buffed, things getting nerfed, rebalancing the meta, and with older fighting games that was never an option.
Yeah.
But so can you talk a little bit about just how that works now with modern fighting games?
And
how it changes tournaments, how it changes play styles, and
so it's kind of weird because I was immediately, when you brought this up, the first thing that popped into my brain was Street Fighter Third Strike Online. So like that was a game that existed on cabinets originally and like hard disks and other things. It was a game that you couldn't patch. But Third Strike Online came out with balances, and there were small tweaks and things thereof. And then some other fighting games do that too, where they're like, here's a digital HD remaster, and we've rebalanced the game, and we've done a couple touch-ups. So a lot of time what happens is when you want to bring these classic games that have been remastered into the tournament scene, it becomes like, oh, we use the current version.
Right.
Or, for example, like, Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. That recently came out, and that has Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Championship Edition. It's got Street Fighter Alpha 3. It's got Third Strike. It's got tons of Street Fighter games that you can play, at their original, you can play these old games that you couldn't initially do that with, but you can play them at their prime versions. Or, like, with the Street Fighter franchise specifically, they would re-release the same style of game with those updates.
Right.
But then you look at modern games now, and you're looking at games like Street Fighter V, you're looking at Tekken, you're looking at, Guilty Gear, and all that, and it's like, yeah, here's the latest patch, here's the latest updates, here's the balances that we released. And when it comes to tournaments, sometimes, game devs really just go, all right, here is the patch that's going to come out by the tournament, or like if it comes to like DLC characters. Like there are some tournaments that say you are allowed to play this character that just recently came out if you want, but understand that no one knows the meta for that character, or say because this character just is fresh, that character is banned because there isn't enough data, not enough people play it, no one knows it, or the character is unbalanced still, and it's unfair to just throw this character in. So
whether you know it or not, you could find out something within the tournament.
And it happens. Those have happened. I know there have been tournaments back when Ibuki came out in Street Fighter V. There were a couple like slightly larger tournaments that were going on throughout the U.S. where people were like, you don't have to use Ibuki if you want. She just came out. But if you want to play Ibuki, go right ahead. No one's going to hold it against you. It's just you're playing that double-edged sword of no one knows this character and how to fight against it, but how do I play it?
But you don't know this character.
Exactly. Yeah. Did you have enough time in the lab to learn it? Did you go to events where Ibuki was demoable and like sit at the console and get back in line 500 times to learn her, or like get up at crack of dawn at Comic-Con and just go to the Capcom booth? And like I've done that. I've done that with Marvel 3, where I was like at Comic-Con, and as soon as the doors opened, I went straight to Capcom, and I was like, Wolverine, Amaterasu, Sienko, let's learn this stuff right now. And like I did pretty decently throughout the weekend because I took that extra lab time, and no one knew how to fight me.
Right. And so yeah, when you're finally able to play that outside of an event like that, all of a sudden you have a leg up on everyone else when it comes to that.
And that gap though is also kind of crazy because in the new age of fighting games and in the new ages of social media where everything is super shareable, tech gets discovered fast. And like major props out to communities too. Like for example, first and foremost, shout outs to the Dragon Ball FighterZ community. I have not seen a fighting game like subset community being extremely supportive and fundamental and supporting of fundamentals and concepts than this one, because they went really, really hard out the gate day one to be like, all right, we're going to get a lot of new people here who are like, I love Dragon Ball Z. We want to share. We want people to get invested into fighting games. Let's do this. And they made hashtags for every character. So it's like DBFZ Trunks, which is like TRX, or like DBFZ_VEG for Vegeta. And
so if you're looking up specific things,
so people will tag their tech, they'll tag their combos, they'll tag their like ideas and like lab results, and be like, here's stuff I learned, here's situations, here's optimizations, here's warnings, and
that's
like
crazy.
It's everywhere. Like there's another wonderful Twitter account that I would suggest people follow if they want to learn about fighting games called Hi Fight. It's basically a Twitter account that really just likes to retweet and share fighting game content from Twitch streams to tournaments and otherwise. And I love that Twitter account because sometimes I just get to see all the crazy stuff people are learning. Like literally this morning before I left my house, I was watching a really cool video on like how to deal with Abigail critical art wake-ups if you play Blanca. And I'm like, oh, these are some really cool options. I like this.
This is so specific, but
it is.
But
it's important, especially in tournament season. In tournament season, these little moments matter where it's just like, here's a dumb situation, or here's a really important, crucial situation. And it's like, this information is now shareable so quickly, because we have patch updates all the time, because people are commenting, and because people are sharing what they're learning on such an easy format like PlayStation Share and like Mixer and Xbox and all these other things. All these little tools are being maximized for efficiency to share knowledge so that everybody gets to grow.
So
that's crazy.
These games are changing very quickly.
Oh,
not only because of the patches, but also because of the way that people want to counter certain things. So every year, EVO, like the dynamics are going to change completely. You know, are there people that like have been sticking with the same characters that they play? Or
kind of. I feel like in this generation of fighters, it's been really interesting. Like Street Fighter V is a really, really interesting game for that because we're on season 3 of DLC characters, right? There have been 3 rounds of DLC, and every time a character comes out, you know, there's going to be balances and updates, but 6 new characters get added to the game every time. So there are people who are cycling through characters, like Daigo, like one of the most like legendary fighting game players of all time. His thing was like he mained Ryu forever, and then now in Street Fighter V, after from some updates, he switched to Guile, and like he's found, you know, his new character within Guile, and it's great. Or there are other people who are like, this is my character since day 1, and then like a new character gets introduced in season 3, and they're in love with it, and it's like, well, now I'm a Monot main. So it happens a lot in these types of games where characters are constantly being released, and it's just like, I loved this other character, but this character, A, fits my playstyle, and B, offers me the things that I want out of my playstyle that I now get to take advantage of. And you get to see a lot of that when it comes to major tournaments, because originally it was like, oh, well, these are the characters that are tournament killers. And now that we have this ability to just constantly keep changing up the brackets in terms of tiers and whatever, you know, which is, I feel, almost non-existent. A lot of people kind of do
There are no top-tier characters anymore.
Well, a lot of people have different opinions on who is optimal, who takes the most work. Like, it's much more complex than just tiers. People kind of just rate who is best overall. But it's just like, that has become such a subjective thing now. And every person utilizes characters differently. And with the introduction of new characters constantly into certain games, we get to see such a diverse cast. Like, it's great. I think it was Combo Breaker. I was super stoked because I think there were like 7 different characters that made it into top 8. Like 7 different characters are in top 8.
Yeah.
There were like almost no mirror matches, and it's crazy. Like back in the day, it kind of felt like that's what you saw. You were like, well, these are the best characters, so here's your Ken mirror match. Here's Ryu versus Rufus versus Balrog, and nothing else. And it's like now you're like, oh yeah, this is top 8. We're gonna see Minot, Juri, Ibuki, Rashid, Ken, Birdie, Urian, and it's like, that's great. I get to see the World Warriors on stage, not just
you're playing
Cammy versus Cammy.
You get to play out the story of the game. And the crazy thing about EVO is, you know, it started as a fighting tournament. It started as a championship to show off the best players, and now it's starting to become its own convention as well. You know, there's a floor. People are showing off games.
I recently just started attending EVO. Like, my first EVO was last year.
Yeah.
And
you've been watching for a long time, though. You've been following.
Oh, yeah. I watch it on streams, or I just follow the news on fighting game outlets. But my first year attending was last year, and I was like, this is crazy because there's, you know, dealers booths, there's demo stations, there's an artist alley.
Yeah. There's people showing off, like, you know, other fighting games.
Yeah,
like,
I got demos.
I got a press notification for a game called Hamsterdam, which I feel like you should go check.
Hamsterdam? I guess I'm gonna.
You're going to go check that out while you're on the floor.
I will. I feel I'm obligated, actually. But, yeah, I will check it out.
and you know, like, there was another one of like, someone making remaking old arcade game cabinets, you know, like with HD screens and things like that.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy that you get to see this now. And I really like it because, you know, there's now more accessibility for fans. Like, and especially as a cosplayer. Like, I'm a cosplayer. That's my jam. And I'm going to be cosplaying at EVO. And, you know, there are some cons that are like, yeah, we have cosplay contests. Or it's just like, cosplayers are such an amazing source of support, because when you're a fighting game cosplayer, you're cosplaying a character that you stand for, that you resonate with. Maybe it's a character you play. Like, a lot of the times, characters that I've cosplayed from fighting games are characters I main. Right. So it's like, this is my character loyalty, and I'm wearing it literally on my shoulders for people to see. Like, that dude's a Rashid main. He cosplays and he plays Rashid. That's nuts. So, like, this is how much I love this character. This is how much I love this franchise. And then when you go to fighting game tournaments, it's a very immediate way to show off what you love and who you support.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with any sport. You know, like people wearing jerseys,
wear your
and
sports
painting their
jersey.
faces different color.
Exactly. So
cosplay
ESPN
and,
needs to chill the hell out and stop getting mad on Twitter when we play our video games. Thank you. It's my favorite part, honestly. It's just thousands of angry people being like, "Oh, the video games on my ESPN, what the heck?" And it's like, hey, man, we put up with you covered in body paint.
To be fair, it's not ESPN that's getting mad. It's the ESPN fans.
No, it is. It is. It's the people. It's people who are blasting on social media. And thank you for clarifying, because it's true. But it's just funny to see that, and it's like, there's not a lot of difference here. It's just the medium's different. The mentality is the same.
No, this is one of the biggest things. And, for people who are listening to this that have no idea, about fighting games and, like maybe have seen them from afar but never really like knew to get into them and things like that, I am a firm believer of the fact that you can get into any sport, be it esport, physical sport, racing, anything like that. You can get into any sport if you sit down and you learn the rules and you really like absorb what the game is. If you know how to play, it's a lot easier to follow sport, and you start to get invested very, very quickly.
Oh, definitely.
Which is one of the reasons that esports picked up so quickly, is that, like people knew how to play Dota.
Yeah.
So they would watch people play Dota, and they knew what was coming. They could see little things. Yeah. When I was at BlizzCon a couple years ago, I was Heroes of the Storm was being projected, and I had I could make out some of the stuff that was going on, and like all of a sudden the audience went crazy, and I'm like, what happened? What happened? But then
you're not familiar, but
then when Overwatch popped up, I'm like, oh, okay, I know what's going on here.
Oh, totally.
Like you're watching the map and you're like, okay, wait, Tracer just went off that way. You can see what's happening.
And you get that same thing out of fighting games, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Once you understand certain situations and you understand the way mechanics work, like fighting games are so intense and so sometimes one of the things that's really strange is like, there are some fighting games that I love as games. I'm not good at them, which bums me out because I want to be. But because I understand them, when I watch them at high play, I'm in awe. And it's just like, I see why people are doing things where players are like, oh, I'm being very careful of my zoning. Or when it's just like, a person just knows. Like the infamous Umashoryu, like Daigo's legendary psychic uppercuts. Or it's just like, he always knows. And now when he's playing Guile, he's got the Ume so bad and the Ume flash kick, and it's just like these players are like, I had the right spacing and I had the right amount of resources and I know just enough damage to get this away, and because this clicked, everything works out. Right. And like players also know that too, so they're just watching it and they're just kind of like, oh my god, I swear if he can just get that light, oh, he got the light, he hit it, oh, it's converting, oh god, and it's just like you feel it. And even more so, the very first major tournament I ever got to actually attend was Capcom Cup 2016. It was my first major I ever got to be at. And the energy that is circulated in the arena when you're watching that stuff happen, and everyone collectively is building up the tension and the excitement, and it's otherworldly. It's crazy.
That's the thing. Like it's
like sports.
Even if you're like loosely into any of these games, if you're loosely into any esports or loosely into any fighting games, things included like Injustice 2 and Fighter Z, bring in a new audience to EVO. So if you're even loosely interested in any of these games, go to an event where they're being played. Be in the environment, because you may it'll be the equivalent of going to Dodger Stadium. You don't need to know baseball to enjoy being at Dodger Stadium.
It's true. You get to enjoy.
You learn
the crowd.
Baseball by being there.
Exactly.
So
it's super fun.
Like this is the way to get into fighting games or esports or anything like that, is to just go down there and be there. And if you can't physically be there, then watch on Twitch, because you can hear the audience and you can feel the room a little bit.
You get to listen to commentators and like FGC commentation. FGC commentary is dynamite. It's so fun. Like I love it. I just love listening to commentators on the mic. Shout outs to Hell Pockets, Sagem, and Tasty Steve. I love you guys. You're some of my favorites. You make it real fun to listen to fighting games. Just the silly ways that they refer to like stuff happening on the screen, to like their deep analytics and understanding of the games. Mm-hmm. And like just listening to commentators helps you learn, because their whole job is to, very quickly explain what's going on the screen, or just to at least translate what's happened. So like there's tons of stuff that I've learned from fighting games just because I'm listening to commentary. And it's like, FGC provides so much great content to get invested.
Yeah, in fact, I take that back a little bit. If you're looking to get into these games, I take back a little bit because, going to the event, that'll get you hyped, that'll get you the passion. Yeah. But if you really want to learn, you got to listen to commentators. Because that was one of the things.
You get commentators at events, too.
Right.
We're lucky. We're lucky that sometimes that happens where you can be on stream in the still audience.
With big sporting events, sometimes you don't always get the commentators. And sometimes, you'd be sitting in the stands with the radio.
Your headphones on or whatever.
And you know what's going on before anyone around you
I have a
does.
relatable story to that, actually, for sports entertainment. I went to my very first WWE show, live event.
Yeah.
And I've been watching WWE since 2012. I got in, in the last, decade. And I really enjoy it. I love the story element. I love the drama. It's fun. This is my American live action anime soap opera. It's great.
Yep.
And I'm so used to listening to the commentators and all that. And then I went to a live taping and there's none of it. You just watch the match and you don't get to hear any commentary. And I'm like, this kind of takes a little bit of the fun out of it because the commentary adds this extra layer of you're getting stats, you're getting understandings, you're getting some backstory sometimes, and it's just you get this one level more out of what's going on than you would if you're just watching it live with no commentary. And it's kind of a bummer. But fighting games, for a lot of times, you get to enjoy that. Commentators get to be put on speakers, and it's I'm glad that I can go to the event, and then even though it's being streamed, everyone in the room gets to hear what's going on. And I'm like, thank goodness, because it's really I don't want to say crucial, but it's the perfect ingredient to make the recipe flawless.
Yeah,
it adds the last bit of spice.
Let me tell you, if you're into wrestling, you should check out the pro wrestling sheet that's just been added to the Collider family.
Oh, I mean, I saw that WWE belt hiding back there.
Right. Oh yeah, no, there's big wrestling fans in the office here. And, big gaming fans and stuff as well. So hopefully this weekend we'll be able to check out some of the craziness that's going on up at EVO and talk about it. This weekend, we were talking about it a little bit. This weekend is such a crazy one for events, especially within the gaming space or even loosely related, because Gen Con is going on in Indianapolis, which is all tabletop gaming and stuff like that.
RTX taking place in Texas.
Yeah, so Dorian is down at RTX this weekend. So if you are down at RTX, go find Dorian Parks. He is Dorian Parks and Rec on Twitter.
Good.
So go and find him and bug him and challenge him to some video games.
But if you're at EVO, you can come because you're
I will
working on it.
There. I will be in Vegas.
Yeah,
because there's also a Star Trek convention.
There is
going on at the Rio that we are covering. So there's a lot of shared stuff. There's so much going on this weekend.
I mean, I'll be at EVO.
Yeah,
and that's important.
Go say hi to Maguma up at EVO.
You can follow me on Twitter. It's at Maguma Usagi. It's Maguma USAGI. And if you come find me, you should ask me about my up and coming project, Burning Souls. That's pretty cool.
You have a game coming out.
I have a game in the works. Don't say it's coming out because I don't know when it's coming out. It's
eventually coming out. I'm saying this because I'm very excited.
And you should
a friend of mine is producing a game.
I want people to be excited, but I have a pet project that's in the works. I've been working on this for a while. I know we're on camera. It's far away, so I'm just gonna hold up the case and you can zoom in or screen cap it.
Yeah.
But I'm working on a project. We're keeping it at project right now because this is prototype level, but it's called Burning Souls. It is going to be a fighting game, very akin to the Versus style franchises. So if you've played games like Capcom vs. SNK, BlazBlue Cross Tag, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, 3, Skullgirls, etc., you're going to find a lot of home in this game. And I've drawn a lot of inspirations for the way I want this game to be made from the fighting games that I love and the fighting games I love to watch. Very original cast of characters inspired by real people. So I've got a character in this game. I've got friends who are in this game. There's a few original 100% not based on anybody characters just for the sake of filling up spots and slots. But it's a pretty fun game. It's got a cool story, and I think a lot of people would love to just kind of see it evolve, and hopefully down the line someone might be like, hey, let's make that.
And you have showcased here your knowledge of how fighting games work, what makes them interesting, and also you've showcased the fact that you're not scared of bugs that will eventually become features. So I would love people to find dumb bugs in game. I would love to make this game
And then somebody's just like, yeah, here's dumb stuff. And I'm like, good, leave it. I want this to be the next Marvel 2.
I was going to end it. I was going to wrap it up. But there was one thing that I wanted to ask you about on behalf of the fighting game community.
Ooh.
Tell me about the anticipation behind Jump Force.
Ooh.
How do we feel? Like, how does the community feel about it?
So I'm going to start this right now and say that I don't know how the community feels.
Okay.
Because I will tell you right now, I chose to sleep on Jump Force.
Interesting.
And the reason why I chose to sleep on it is I got to play it at E3. And I personally didn't have a lot of fun with it. For me...
Feels cash grabby?
A little. I mean... Jump Force's origins initially lie in an older game for the DS called Jump Superstars and Jump Ultimate Stars, which anybody who's owned a DS and loves anime games will know very well. It was a 2D. It was essentially an arena brawler. It's kind of like Japanese anime Smash. And, you know, you have basic moves, you have specials, you've got assists, and it's a really fun game. It's really cool, and it basically just takes inspiration using the Jump the Jump brand and all the manga and anime that are underneath Jump's label and put them into this amazing, like, the most ambitious crossover ever. Hold my beer, Marvel. Yeah. Like, really. It's crazy. And then eventually they did reach a 3D platform, which was J-Star's Victory or J-Star's Versus. I'm trying to remember the exact title, but it came out on PS3. And it was a similar concept. And when Jump Force came out, I saw it, and I'm just like, oh, it's J-Star Versus or J-Star Victory. Okay, whatever. And then I played it at E3 for a little bit, and I was kind of like, yeah, it's J-Star Victory. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really enthralled by it. And the other thing that kind of gets me is that, you know, anime arena fighters and anime, like, area brawlers, like, a lot of them have similar equations in a sense that are just, like, I don't find them fun. Like, Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm kind of laid the bar down when that game first came out as to what an anime arena brawler is like. And there are a lot of games that use that equation. And I'm kind of, like, tired of it.
Yeah,
like,
I was going to say my
okay
exposure to it was Xenoverse.
Yeah, oh
my God.
No Xenoverse. I don't like Xenoverse. I did not enjoy the Tenkaichi series at all. That was, I think, my very first experience into that type of game. And I was like, this isn't for me. And that's fine. You know, at the end of the day, this is my opinion. If you enjoy those games, I'm not going to be here to tell you don't play them. If that makes you happy, play it. Be happy, be good at the things you love. So that's fine. Yeah. It's just not for me.
Plenty of these games can still have a home, like, in the casual space. You know,
that's true.
Jump Force might be a very good casual game. Like, a game like Super Smash is something that transcends, you know, like,
so you can do it both ways.
Really good for casual players.
You can play it seriously, yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of the games that are there are a few games that are showcased at EVO that are not necessarily meant for casual players.
True.
They're meant for people who are deep into fighting games.
I'm going to take this moment that you brought up Jump Force, and we're talking about these types of fighting games, to slide over to a different set of games that I think deserve this hype and recognition. My Hero 1's Justice. Now, that is a really good arena brawler.
Interesting. Okay, so, I don't know this one.
So, My Hero 1's Justice is a fighting game that's coming out for the My Hero Academia franchise. 10 out of 10. Wonderful anime. Definitely check it out. And this is another arena brawler type game where you basically have a main character you play as. You have 2 assist characters. And it just uses the big space environment. You have free 360 range to run around. You can jump. You can run on walls. There's a lot of open verticality in this game.
Right.
But they simplify the game, first and foremost, using, like, this is your attack button. These 2 buttons are your 2 unique specials. You've got guard break attacks. You've got invincibility attacks. You've got supers. You have the ability to block. You have the ability to dash. And essentially, they created a really nice rock, paper, scissors system for their combat that is really easy to use. It's not super complex. There's nothing truly abusable in this system that doesn't come with a drawback. And it's simplistic but fun. And I really enjoyed playing it. I played it at E3. I played it at Anime Expo, and I fell in love with it. And, like, I when that game comes out, I don't expect it to be tournament serious, but, like, I'm gonna take it seriously. Like, at E3, I was stomping on people left and right, and some people were, like, legit mad at me because they're like, "Why won't you give me a chance?" And I'm like, "Why don't you block?" Oh wait, you can't block because this is unblockable. Ha! What up? But, like, I really enjoy that. And then another game similarly that's going to be coming out, Kill la Kill, is also getting an arena brawling fighting game called Kill la Kill the Game IF, or IF. And And that game is also carrying a double-layered rock paper scissors system. So it's really interesting where it's like a Venn diagram of rock paper scissors.
Sure.
So there's just one unique move in the triangle that can go two different directions. So this one move creates a triangle in this direction, but then it also creates a triangle down here. And then it's like you have to figure out where you lay offensively or defensively in that triangle. And then they have another system which is like the epic dialogue system. It's really cool where basically you get into these clashes, kind of like an Injustice, where you do a clash and then you kind of play the rock, paper, scissors kind of, and you spend your bar to gamble. In this system, instead, what you're doing is you're saying prolific lines from the series. Because Kill la Kill's anime is very idealistic. It's really about, the character's personal ideals versus the world and against the other person. So it's a battle of wills far more than it's a battle of skill. And this system introduces a degree of that where you have to pick and choose certain lines in a rock, paper, scissors format that are stronger than your opponent's words. So you're clashing with people, and it's like, I won't give up because the things that I love matter to me, and it's important for me to always rely on the people around me who support me, versus someone else who's like, it's fine, I'm willing to bear all of my transgressions against the world because the true power, fills me with greatness.
I mean, I feel like the power of friendship would always win in this situation.
it can. It's a big trope. That's a top tier TV tropes link there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just like this idea where they're taking a concept of a show and making it a really cool game mechanic that should create great results. And essentially these types of situations create buffs and debuffs and other things that will then impact standard flow of combat. That's
really cool dynamic.
Neat. And that's what I like about arena brawlers is that you can play these games 5,000 ways to Sunday and they can just be kind of carbon copies, but when you find just the right touches of things to make them different, or to make them accessible where the buttons are simple, but then the ceiling becomes so high. That's really, I think, the goal that you want when you're making a fighting game, when you're trying to produce any type of competitive anything, is can people access this? Can people get invested? Can people get involved? Will people who want it casual be able to enjoy it casually? And will people who want it seriously find the tools to take it seriously?
I mean, and
that's what matters in my opinion at the end of the day, and that's what I want to happen with Burning Souls. So I want it to happen. I want to see people be able to enjoy stuff, but I also want it to be unique. I want people to have unique experiences that are dynamic and fun.
I think that's awesome. Well, Burning Souls in development now, EVO happening this weekend. Matt, thank you so much for coming down.
It's a pleasure, Joey. I'm so glad to be here.
Do you want to give your Twitter handle one more time?
Yes. You can, again, find me on Twitter. That is at Maguma Usagi, Maguma Usagi. I tweet a lot. I do cosplay. You can find me also on Instagram, Patreon. I have Twitch and YouTube. All those things are linked on my Twitter account, so you can easily follow me all over the internet. And yeah, check out my content. Come find me at EVO. Come talk to me about Burning Souls. I got a prototype game case. I got a prototype manual so people can check out what the game should look like down the line.
Very cool.
But yeah, thanks again for having me. Thanks for letting me have my shill moment and for talking about fighting games.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Joey Rasool, RASSOOL. That's it for the Collider Games podcast this week. Guys, thanks so much for joining. We'll see you at EVO.
Later.